Now, Trey Bag's my cousin. Yeah, he's my cousin. He actually used to follow me around. He's like, say, 7, 8 years younger. So back then when I was like 20, you know, he's like 13, you know. And his mom, she had wanted me to take him under my wing because, you know, he was getting caught up in the street. And at the time I was like, you know, I really can't, you know, see myself hanging with a 12, 13-year-old. You know, I really, you know, I'm running with, you know, adults type stuff. So there's really no place for, you know, for him. And then one day I took him to a party with me that I was DJing for. And he said, well, I know how to rhyme, you know. And then after I was like, yeah, all right, well, let me hear you. You know, I put him on the mic and he sounded like he was 25 years old. You know, he had a deep, full voice. The way he sounds on the records is the way he sounded when he was like 14. 13, you know, and we was like, yo, you know, and he was like this big and like 80 pounds soaking wet, but he had this huge voice, you know what I mean? And he had a great tone, you know? So, so by the time I started producing, you know, I wanted to get him signed by folk, but a lot of folk was missing his sound, you know? So when I had Kid Flash, who I know you was gonna ask about Kid Flash, Sean, what happened is, Sean was another one of them guys who a lot of cats, they didn't regard, they didn't really connect to him, they didn't really respect what he was trying to do getting in and when he lived in New York. So, you know, so he was trying to, you know, hook up with a lot of cats, Kid, a lot of cats he was, but no, you know, cats wasn't really making time and he was a little frustrated by that. So at that same concert, the one that that Buttons for, the Get Busy series with Treacherous 3 and all them other cats, Kid was there in them. And he asked me, we had thousands of people in the park. We shut down like 15 block radiuses. The cops, it was bananas. It was, cops asked us to shut it down, but we had a permit, so they couldn't touch us. And they didn't believe I could put that many people in the park. The history of the park we threw that in, which was Tompkins Park, they had, you know, Sky and groups back in the day that was popular, and they couldn't get more than 500, 600 in the park. So when I went to the precinct and told them, I said, look, man, I'm on the radio, I'm gonna blow this up. And they laughed at me. They literally, the cop leaned over and said, Johnny, he thinks he's gonna fill Tompkins Park. You know, Tompkins Park, nobody ever filled it. So I said, no, I'm gonna fill it. So they said, no, you won't, but here's your permit. So they only put like 2 cops on it. So during the concert, it was literally bleeding. It just was a sea of people. I got a piece of video for that too. I'll give you that. And the cops had came and they asked me if I would stop the concert. And I was like, nah, I got a permit. You know, I said, you know, y'all just got to handle it. But then there came a lot of mobs and stuff breaking stores. It became a lot of looting. I mean, it just got Brooklyn. It just got Brooklyn, right? But Sean, Kid Flash was there. And while everybody is, you know, it's just crowded, he asked me, you know, he approached me right, you know, and then he was like, you think I could stand on stage? You know, and everybody's on stage, you know, Treacherous 3, Kumo D, everybody, you know, it's a crowded stage. It's packed. And I was like, you know, it was something about how he approached me, you know, he carried himself. So I said, sure, man, come on up, you know, and he never forgot that. So when he left that day, I ran into him and he was saying, I appreciate that. Can I get your number? Gave him my number. Long, short, 2 years, I say, every 6 months he would call and say, I'm in LA, I'm gonna get a record deal. And if I do, I want you to produce me because nobody else even gave me the time of day. And I was like, that's what's up, that's what's up. And sure enough, he called me, he hanging with Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and he like, yo, man, I just got signed to CBS. And, you know, I told him, if you ain't producing it, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, that's what's up, you know? So the check and the money started flowing, and I was in LA, you know what I mean? So what I did is, because Flash had a deadline, I asked Trey Bag to write some stuff for him, to help him get going. So then after that, Trey Bag, when he wrote Hot Like Fire, because he actually wrote the lyrics for Hot. He actually rapped it and wrote it, you know, and he got credit, you know, writer's credit, some publishing. But then after that, I was able to get more people to see Trey Bag for what he was. So then I got that Add a Jam thing done, and I think we did one more. But I don't think we released it. So if you know if I released it, you got to tell me. You know, Freak was the cat when I had the High Power 3. He was the dude that you just knew. He was his spirit was rhythm. You know, he was just extremely melodic and rhythmatic. You know, it was just, he just was extremely, you know, and because he was articulate, it just made a good formula. So his lyrics, even now when I listen to his lyrics today, it's like, man, this cat's lyrically was intense, you know, and he was clean. He didn't slur, and it was, you know, it was just real tight. And he was the only one who, you know, who kept interest. The other two, they didn't really keep the interest in the stuff, but Freak did. So once I got a production deal with Urban Rock, you know, he's the first cat I called. You know, it was no doubt. You know, he was the first guy I called, and he didn't disappoint. I mean, I think it would have been better if I had put him on another project with another label, because Urban Rock just didn't have the money to really market him. But his stuff to me is classic. You know, it's real hip hop, line for line. When the pen hits the paper, we got tons of stuff that we never released. You know, just stuff, you know, producing, and he was my MC. You know, so if I'm doing parties and stuff, he's just, you know, he's my MC. So yeah, there's tons of stuff that never came out. Jazz and I go back through Fresh Gordon. Fresh Gordon, yeah. Fresh Gordon. I don't know, but Fresh was, he lived a few blocks on Van Buren, around the corner from me, in Bed-Stuy, and then when Fresh started popping, he started getting in with, you know, Fat Boys and Salt and Herbie and Salt and Pepper and everybody, but he was also working with Jazz a lot, so so me and him met through Gordon. I'm pretty positive. And then I got into production. So then once I got into production, it was Jazz when he had kind of blew up with the OJs, and he was like, you know, yeah, on my next album, V, you know, I want you to do some stuff, you know what I mean? So then I had him start coming to my house in Brooklyn, and then we just would start just working on tracks, you know, and his deal got done, and the rest was history. When I was producing somebody, I always looked at their unique thing, you know what I mean? And because Jazz's lyrics was so melodic, you know, the way he would approach it, plus he could sing, you know, you know, he could certainly go with raw stuff, you know, but for me, when me and him sat down and I asked him what did he want to do, you know, what was the voice he wanted to kind of express, he was really, really interested, because he did this joint, I think it was called I'm in Love. Was that it? I'm in Love? Yeah, he did this joint that was called I'm in Love, where he was singing on it, that really never got the kind of play, but it was really hot. You know, matter of fact, Gordon did the music. Fresh Gordon did the music for it. And so then, you know, he did that before the OJs and all that kind of stuff, you know, so he had an interest to do singing, you know what I'm saying? So by the time he and I got together, he was really still in that mode that he wanted it to have that musical influence, which is another reason why he wanted to work with me, because a lot of cats couldn't do that. They could just do the straight beats and stuff, but because I was able to do the musical stuff in terms of playing the keyboard and stuff like that, he was like, I want to do it, you know, let's do this together type stuff. And that's why all the tracks I did with him, you know, have such a musical influence, you know what I mean? Because that's what he preferred. And I was like, whatever you want, that's what it will become. That actually never really got released. The fact that you know about that is kind of scary. That's scary, because we did, I'm trying to remember the label. Man, which label that was for? But whichever label it was for, they had a foot in the major and a foot in the independent arena, whatever label it was. So it don't surprise me, it could still creep its way out. But technically, because of that house movement, the house movement was going real strong. So house music was starting to really kick off. And because house music was kicking off, me and Bill Blast both was really into house music as well as the hip hop music. So literally we leave a hip hop club and then we go to a house, you know, just to party. So we would go there to do that. And so, you know, so I started putting together some house music stuff, and we did that bass. Venom was gonna be like because I did V the Viper, Venom was like a make-believe name of a group that really didn't exist, because I know I had some contractual obligations still as Vandy C. So I did Venom as a way to, you know, go ahead do some stuff. And it was during that season, I was actually doing a whole house album, and they actually paid me. They gave me some money too, and it was probably halfway in, maybe I was a third in, that my wife had died. you know. So when she had died, everything came to a stop. And the label owner, I can't remember his name, you know, he just, you know, he called me after about a month and a half, you know, because I had closed all the sessions and stuff. And he said, listen, Vandy, don't even worry about the money. You know, he gave me 15, 20 up front, 20 grand to just, you know, start the project. And he was like, don't worry about it, man. Just take care of your family. Just, you know, don't worry about your contract. If you ever want to come back to it, we're here. And if not, don't worry. Just family's the most important thing. And so we really never released it, you know. But that one did almost. It was pretty much finished, you know. Like I got the test somewhere in there, the test vinyl doing. But yeah, it really never really got finished, and it really never really got released. And all the other ones we were gonna do, that I was gonna do, they never got done because I never went back. I really never went back. I only did that Shazzy project because her manager used to be my manager. Tank, who managed Whistle and Chubb Rock and everybody. He used to be me and Bill's manager for a season. So he called me because he had this Shazzy project, and he was like, you know, if you could do a few tracks for it, it'd be hot. So he bought it, drove it down to Cherry Hill where I was living, which I was also working on a project. I was working on an album for Erica Alexander from the Cosby Show, and Karen. Karen was the fast-talking girl on the Cosby Show, the little short one that, you know, really talk fast. So they was coming to my studio in Cherry Hill, and I was doing their album, and then, you know, Tank called, you know, and he was like, yeah, I got this girl, you know, I'm managing her, you know, and then we went, and that's how, you know, but I really kind of was walking away. I was only doing the Erica thing because they were on TV, you know what I mean? They were on TV, so, yeah, that's how that kind of flowed. Yeah, the Don was on Def Jam. That was Russell's dude. That was cool. We finished that album. That you know, he was going to be their version of Fresh Prince or something. You know, he was the fun guy. I know they did at least a video for him, and I think I did his whole album, if not most of it. It feels like I did the whole album. But he was a good guy. Don was cool. He had that popcorn, you know, fun, you know, joyful kind of thing, and I thought he was going to do good. He had those kind of songs that was like that kind of fun, like Parents Don't Understand type stuff, and somehow he got lost in that Def Jam shuffle. You know, he got lost in that Def Jam shuffle.